The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is one of the most notorious organizations in the world.
The Hells Angels are one of the most notorious motorcycle clubs in the world. They have a reputation for being violent, rebellious, and loyal to their own. The infamous biker gang has a history of shocking moments that have made headlines and sparked controversy. These moments involve clashes with rival gangs, law enforcement, or even celebrities. Others involve internal conflicts, betrayals, or scandals, and some are just plain bizarre and unexpected. These moments reveal the dark side of the Hells Angels and their culture and code. But who are the Hells Angels? How did they become so notorious? And what are some of the most famous stories involving them? Join us today as we dive into the world of the Hells Angels and their most shocking moments. The Hells Angels are an international motorcycle club founded in California in 1948. They have chapters worldwide, and they ride Harley-Davidson motorcycles with pride. They live and die by the code and are united by the Death Head, a red and white winged skull they all wear with honor on their sleeveless denim jacket known as their cut. Number 1. Hunter S. Thompson's year with the Hells Angels. In 1965, a young journalist named Hunter S. Thompson decided to write a book about the Hells Angels, who were gaining attention in the media for their hoodlum activities. He contacted Sonny Barger, the leader of the Oakland chapter, and asked to join them as an observer. Barger agreed, and Thompson spent a year with the Hells Angels, riding with them, partying with them, and witnessing their wild lifestyle. Thompson's book, Hells Angels, A Strange and Terrible Saga, was published in 1966 and became a bestseller. It was also one of the first examples of gonzo journalism, a style of writing that blends fact and fiction, and that Thompson would later become famous for. The book portrayed the Hells Angels as a complex and contradictory group of outlaws who were both feared and admired by society. However, not everyone was happy with Thompson's book. The Hells Angels felt betrayed by Thompson's portrayal of them and accused him of exploiting them for money and fame. They also claimed that he had broken their code of silence by revealing their secrets. In 1966, on Labor Day weekend, Thompson was at a party with the Hells Angels when he intervened in a fight between a member and his wife. The member turned on Thompson and beat him up, along with several other bikers. Thompson barely escaped with his life and ended his relationship with the Hells Angels for good. Number 2. The Altamont Disaster. In 1969, the Hells Angels were hired to provide security for the Altamont Festival, a free concert by the Rolling Stones that was supposed to be a celebration of peace and love. The festival was held at a motor speedway east of Oakland, California, and attracted over 300,000 people. However, things went wrong from the start. The venue was poorly chosen, the crowd was unruly, and the Hells Angels were ill-equipped to handle the situation. The Hells Angels were paid in beer to keep order at the festival, but they soon became drunk and aggressive. They used pool cues and motorcycle chains to beat up anyone who got too close to the stage or annoyed them in any way. They also clashed with other groups of bikers who were present at the festival. The atmosphere was tense and chaotic. The climax came when a young man named Meredith Hunter tried to approach the stage during the Rolling Stones performance. He had a gun in his hand, which he later claimed was for self-defense. A Hells Angel named Alan Passaro saw him and stabbed him 4 times in the back. Hunter died on the spot. The incident was captured on film by documentary filmmakers who were covering the event. The Altamont Festival was a disaster that marked the end of the 1960s counterculture. It also tarnished the image of the Rolling Stones and the Hells Angels. Passaro was arrested and charged with murder, but he was later acquitted on the grounds of self-defense. He died in 1985 under mysterious circumstances. Number 3. The Arizona Sting. In 1977, 2 undercover agents infiltrated the Hells Angels in Arizona and exposed their involvement in drug trafficking, murder, and extortion. The agents were Jay Dobyns and William Queen, who worked for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF. They risked their lives to gather evidence against the gang and testified against them in court. Dobyns posed as a biker named Bird who wanted to join the Hells Angels. He befriended several members of the club and earned their trust by participating in their activities. He also bought and sold drugs and weapons for the gang and witnessed several acts of violence and murder. He even got a Hells Angels tattoo on his chest. Dobyns spent 21 months undercover with the Hells Angels and collected enough evidence to indict 50 members and associates of the club. Queen posed as a biker named Billy St. John, who wanted to buy drugs from the Hells Angels. He met with several members of the club and arranged deals files for cocaine and methamphetamine. He also recorded their conversations and transactions. Queen spent 28 months undercover with the Hells Angels and collected enough evidence to indict 16 members and associates of the club. Both Dobbins and Queen faced many dangers and challenges during their undercover operations. They had to maintain their cover identities and avoid being exposed by the gang or by other law enforcement agencies. They also had to deal with the psychological stress and moral dilemmas of living a double life. They sacrificed their personal and family lives for their mission. Dobbins and Queen were eventually pulled out of their undercover roles and revealed as agents. They testified against the Hells Angels in several trials, which resulted in convictions and sentences for many of the gang members. However, they also faced retaliation and threats from the Hells Angels, who vowed to kill them and their families. They had to live under protection and change their identities. Dobbins and Queen were hailed as heroes by the ATF and the public for their courageous work. They also wrote books about their experiences. No Angel: My Harrowing Undercover Journey to the Inner Circle of the Hells Angels by Dobbins, and Under and Alone: The True Story of the Undercover Agent Who Infiltrated America's Most Violent Outlaw Motorcycle Gang by Queen. Number 4. The Milwaukee Massacre. In 1985, the Hells Angels clashed with their rivals, the Outlaws, in a violent shootout at a hotel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The incident was one of the deadliest in the history of biker wars in America. The shootout occurred on July 4th, when both clubs were holding conventions at nearby hotels. The Outlaws decided to crash the Hells Angels party at the Clarion Hotel, where they opened fire on the unsuspecting bikers. The Hells Angels returned fire, and a fierce gun battle ensued. The shootout lasted for about 10 minutes, during which hundreds of shots were fired. 5 outlaws and 3 bystanders were killed, and several others were wounded. The police arrived at the scene and arrested dozens of bikers from both sides. They also seized hundreds of weapons, including handguns, shotguns, rifles, grenades, and explosives. The shootout shocked the nation and sparked a public outcry against biker violence. It also intensified the rivalry between the Hells Angels and the Outlaws, who continued to feud over territory and influence. Number 5. The car bombing. In 1996, the Hells Angels attempted to assassinate one of their former members, George Christie Jr., who had left the club and cooperated with the authorities. Christie survived a car bomb that was planted under his vehicle but suffered severe injuries. Christie was a prominent member of the Hells Angels for over 20 years. He was the president of the Ventura chapter in California and a close friend of Sonny Barger. He was also involved in various criminal activities, such as drug trafficking, extortion, and murder. However, in 1993, Christie decided to quit the club after he was arrested for conspiring to firebomb 2 tattoo parlors that competed with his own business. He pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against other Hells Angels members in exchange for a reduced sentence. He also exposed some of the club's secrets and crimes to the media. The Hells Angels considered Christie a traitor and a snitch and put a bounty on his head. They hired a hitman named James Brandes to kill him. Brandes planted a bomb under Christie's car, which was parked outside his home in Ventura. On February 7, 1996, Christie got into his car and started it. The bomb exploded with a loud blast that shattered windows and shook buildings. Christie miraculously survived the explosion, but he was badly injured. He suffered burns on his face and body, shrapnel wounds on his legs, and hearing loss in one ear. He was taken to a hospital where he underwent several surgeries. Brandes was arrested and convicted of attempted murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Christie recovered from his injuries and wrote a memoir about his life as a Hells Angel and a fugitive. The Hells Angels have a reputation for being one of the most notorious motorcycle gangs around the world. But it's important to remember that not all that is connected with the gang are involved in criminal activities, and also, not all biker gangs are criminals. Some just do it for the love of riding a Harley Davidson and the wind in their hair. Thanks for watching until the end, and see you in the next one.